This episode was created with the support of Free FM, Hamilton, New Zealand's community access media organisation. Visit us at freefm.org.nz.
Hello and welcome to another episode of ReThinking Mental Wellbeing. This is our community podcast where we can talk about everything related to depression and anxiety. So my name is Andre and I want to thank you for being with me over the next half an hour as we share the space of lived experience where we can talk about how to live the best version of our authentic life. So, if you're ready, then I'm ready. Welcome to the podcast. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Rethinking Mental Wellbeing. If you're here for the first time, then I welcome you to the show. If you have been here before, then welcome back to the show. The topic today is from a question that I received in my emails the other day. And I was asking if we can talk and explore this topic of mindfulness. So for the next half an hour, we're going to talk about what mindfulness is, what it's used for what purpose, but more importantly, how to use it in our everyday life. So no doubt you've probably heard of mindfulness before. The word mindfulness is used everywhere within the self-help industry. It's even used within therapeutic modalities, so counseling, psychology. And there's even specific schools of counseling models that have a mindfulness-based foundation. Maybe you're wondering, what is mindfulness? And how does it help with things like anxiety and stress? How can you actually apply it and use it in our everyday life? The definition of mindfulness, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is it's a mental state achieved by focusing and being aware of the present moment while acknowledging and accepting our feelings, our thoughts, our body sensations without judgment. Our minds are continually scanning our environment for threats around us, whether real or imagined. This is our biological design because our first priority in life, and I've talked about this before in previous episodes, is to feel safe and to survive. And so we have mechanisms that automatically prioritize safety. And these mechanisms scan our internal environment and it scans our external environment for the purpose of asking the question and getting a satisfactory answer. Am I safe? This happens all the time, every second of the day, whether you're conscious of it or not. But sometimes we have a problem with the scanning system because this particular scanning system is programmed in a very specific way. This scanning system that is designed to make sure that we are safe is very good at picking up and scanning for actual threats to our safety and our survival. But we also have the power to override that alarm system. And we do that by programming in our own experiences and our own interpretation of those experiences. But in particular, we did that when we were younger. And we often take that younger version of a danger alarm and carry that with us into adulthood. But now, often it's misreading a faulty program. In other words, we're not getting an accurate measure of whether our internal environment or our external environment is actually threatening to us. These days, this faulty programming or faulty scanning is what we call chronic stress or chronic anxiety or any other panic-related disorders. So the problem is anxiety is the result of a miscommunication, a misscanning between our perceived safety and our actual safety, between our perceived threats and the actual threats. This happens because your brain is trying to keep you as safe as possible. And sometimes it does this by overprotecting you with this old but heavily reliable program that it used to run on, telling your body that the things around you are dangerous when they are not. The body doesn't know the difference between danger and safety. It gets its instructions from what our brain and mind tells us about the environment. And in previous sessions, I've talked about that fact that we spend, on average, 90% of our day in our heads, and on average, 45% of that time just thinking about the past or the future. So if our definition of the past or the future is fear-based, then that's going to tell our brain that we need protection from the dangers from the past or the future. And we use those fear-based markers as reference points for the future. So mindfulness acts as a complete mind and body reset that reminds us that we are in the present moment, but not in this hypothetical scenario that tells us that we are in danger when we're actually not. Something always to remember is that your body is always in the present moment. It's your mind that mind travels or time travels between the past and the future. So by practicing mindfulness, we're gently guiding our mind back to the safety of here and now. This is probably a good place to talk about when I use the word practice like I did just then. It is because it is just that. This is a rest of your life practice. You are not doing this to achieve a goal. In fact, you're not doing this to achieve anything. You're doing this to just be. This is really important because I hear all the time, Andre, I tried that mindfulness thing and it just didn't work. One of the reasons why it may not have worked is because we had an expectation that didn't happen. So for those of us that live with anxiety, mindfulness isn't just a nice idea. It is essential for our well-being. So instead of our minds getting tangled up with all of these what-if questions, I should have questions, or why did this happen statements, if only I had done questions, thinking about our regrets, our uncertainties, or even the worst-case scenarios. With mindfulness, it anchors you back into the here, into the now, and it reduces that mental spiraling that anxiety creates. So we can look at mindfulness as being a way that your mind and your body can get back into alignment with each other, a way for us to re-engage into the present moments, into this moment, not in the places where anxiety and fear lives. When we shift our attention to this present moment, our brain shifts away from a specific part called the amygdala. Some of you may have heard of that term before. The amygdala is part of the brain that's involved in all types of emotional responses, including fear, anxiety, anger, and pleasure. It also plays a role in social cues and emotional expression. So think of this amygdala as the command center that signals the release of adrenaline in response to a perceived danger. This part of the brain, this amygdala, is also chemically sensitive. This means that it's affected by neurochemicals within our body. It is the part of the brain that responds well to certain chemicals, but specifically adrenaline, but also carbon dioxide and oxygen. So without getting too geeky on you, the amygdala sends an alarm signal to the adrenal glands to trigger the release of more adrenaline. What this does, though, is this ramps up your body, ramps up your brain, making us oversensitive to stimuli in our environment. This is a very simplistic understanding of the amygdala, but for the purpose of this episode, that's going to be simple enough. What mindfulness does is it moves you away from this part of the brain a little bit and engages another part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is responsible for executive functioning, like planning, decision-making, problem-solving. It's also responsible for self-control and regulating emotions. This allows us to regain a sense of control and move through life a little bit easier. And we talked about the amygdala being chemically sensitive. This means that chemicals like carbon dioxide and oxygen can affect it. But when those are used properly, we can calm that part of the brain down and subdue it. And as you have probably guessed, this is done through breathing. The practice of mindfulness also teaches us to observe our thoughts without necessarily reacting to them. Mindfulness also regulates the nervous system, where we can focus on things like our breathing or our senses or even the present activities that we're in. Mindfulness shifts your body from this fight or flight mode, which feels like anxiety, well, actually it is anxiety, to a calmer place, known as this rest and digest mode. Mindfulness also builds up this emotional resilience, which means we are able to deal with certain emotions in a space of self-acceptance, self-compassion, by being kind to ourselves. So we can learn, instead of being overwhelmed by emotion, to reduce their intensity over time by this practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness also reduces rumination or overthinking. Anxiety thrives on repetition, negativity, and overwhelming emotional loops. Mindfulness helps you recognize when we have been ruminating or overthinking, and it can gently shift your focus back to the present, therefore breaking the cycle. Jon Kabat-Zinn is the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction therapy, and he describes this perfectly. So he's quoted as saying, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. Because life is full of ups and downs, and while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond to it. Mindfulness teaches us how to surf the waves of life with greater ease and balance. It improves our physical symptoms of anxiety. Mindfulness reduces common physical anxiety symptoms. Mindfulness encourages self-kindness and compassion, which helps you to respond to things better and caring for yourself in the same way that you would care for a good friend. Mindfulness helps you create a sense of control when these anxious thoughts come up. It helps you choose and gives you an option of how you can respond to a situation rather than reacting to it automatically. And going back to the brain again, the practice of mindfulness over time causes this amygdala to shrink, because often people who live with a panic condition or anxiety has an enlarged amygdala that is often hyperactive, but mindfulness has been shown to reduce the size of it and to dampen down the sensitivity of this amygdala, helping us feel calmer and less reactive to stresses. Mindfulness also increases the connection between these two brain regions, between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So why is this useful? Because when we strengthen that connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, this means that the brain gets better at pausing and assessing the situations more logically. In other words, you get greater control over your emotional responses. The brain also has what we call a default mode network, which is the part of the brain that is active when your mind is wandering or engaged in a specific type of what we call free-form thinking. So not thinking about anything specifically, but mind wandering. Often this mind wandering or this default mode network can be quite negative. So mindfulness is showing us how to quieten down this default mode network, reducing unnecessary overthinking and increasing our present moment awareness. Mindfulness also increases a neurotransmitter called GABA, and GABA essentially helps the promotion of our sense of calm, our sense of contentment. And mindfulness also boosts other mood-boosting chemicals like serotonin and dopamine. And both of these are associated with happiness and contentment and emotional stability. So as you can see, lots of benefits for practicing mindfulness, well worth the effort that we're going to invest in practicing. So I'm going to take you on a journey now. I'm going to take you on a journey into a garden. But this isn't just any garden. It's a garden within you. This is the landscape of your mind and your soul. And in this garden, there are three things that shape everything. We have the soil, the weather, and the seeds. The soil represents your mental, physical, and emotional environments, including our thoughts, our beliefs, and our experiences. The weather is like the emotions that pass through us. Seeds are the things that you want to grow and harvest. So each thought that we have is growing and putting energy into the cultivation of how our seeds of intention grow. There's a beautiful quote that says, "The seeds of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are harvested by the seeds of your thoughts, feelings, and actions." Some of the seeds that are useful to us, safety, satisfaction, compassion, are some things that we want to grow and cultivate and develop. But the conditions have to be right for them to grow. So this is where the soil comes in. The soil represents your mental, physical, and emotional environment. It'll dictate which seeds will grow and which ones won't take root. If the soil is rich with self-care, positive routines, supportive relationships, meaning and purpose, getting our needs met, living authentically, then the seeds of satisfaction and safety and compassion and even hope will flourish and grow. But if the soil is depleted by stress, exhaustion, or negativity, then even the best seeds will struggle to grow. Instead, we have weeds that grow. Things like negative thoughts, our doubts, fears, and worries will eventually take over our garden, not giving room to the things that you are actually wanting to and trying to cultivate. Mindfulness is the act of tending to this garden. It is the practice of noticing the state of your soil or the state of your environment and choosing which seeds to plant, contentment, safety, connection, and pulling out the weeds that don't serve you or don't serve you anymore. It's about exploring how to enrich that soil that is your environment by how to plant positive thoughts, how to nurture them, how to change your environment, and how to gently remove the weeds that are holding you back. Some other examples about making sure that you are providing the soil adequate nutrition is, are you getting enough rest? Are you surrounding yourself with uplifting influences? Are you putting healthy routines in your day? Something my teacher taught me many years ago. We feed off the environment that surrounds us. So asking yourself, what is the environment that you're in? Because in some level, in some way, it will be feeding you. The question is it growing the things that you want to grow and nurture and harvest? Compassion, connection, contentment, and satisfaction. If the soil is dry and neglected, then seeds won't grow. So we have to nourish the soil first. Rest, satisfaction, all those things that we talked about before, help you put in healthy nutrition into the soil of your environment. And this healthy environment creates fertile ground where things that are more healthy for you can take root and flourish within that environment. So when you wake up in the morning, what seeds are growing? Perhaps you wake up feeling anxious or overwhelmed, and that's okay, because it's important to acknowledge that feeling. But then ask yourself, what seeds can I plant today? You may choose a seed of gratitude. I am grateful for this new day, or a seed of hope. Today is a fresh start. With enriched soil and daily care, these seeds will continue to grow and they'll get strong. Every positive action that we do sets the tone for your day, creating a mental environment where peace and happiness can thrive. Planting the seeds you want to grow, making the soil nutritionally valuable so it can grow the seeds you want to grow, is just the beginning. You need to nurture what you've planted, and you do this through paying attention and through repetition. Each time you return to things like gratitude or hope or kindness or satisfaction or the moments of peace that you experience, you are watering those seeds and tending to their care and their growth. Mindfulness, meditation, deep breathing, self-compassion is like rain for your garden. They'll nourish your mind and create the conditions for growth. But what about the weeds that we have? Negative thoughts, fear, self-doubt, worry. They're going to pop up. They are going to grow. Sometimes weeds grow because the soil hasn't been tended to in a long time. Other times they may come from past experiences. Mindfulness teaches you to respond with gentle awareness when a negative thought appears, without judgment, simply observing it. Oh, there's a weed. Maybe asking yourself, why is this weed here? But more importantly, knowing how to remove the weed before it gets too big and too overwhelming. So try this practice next time. Next time a negative thought arises, pause for a bit, breathe. Label it without judgment. Oh, that's anxiety. Oh, that's fear. Oh, that's self-doubt. And then ask yourself, is this thought helping my garden grow? Is this thought helping me grow the seeds that I really want to grow? Safety, compassion, significance, contentment, and peace. Weeding takes time. Some of our thoughts have very deep roots. But with patience and consistent care, your mind's garden becomes easier to tend to, and then you'll feel lighter and freer. And remember, even gardens benefit from what we call seasons of rest. There will be times when your mind feels cluttered, when weeds seem to overrun that space, and when we learn that rest is an essential part of growth. And even in stillness and rest, life stirs beneath the surface. The soil gets a chance to regenerate in that rest. So mindfulness is a daily practice. Every breath is an opportunity to enrich your soil, or plant something new, or pull a weed. With time, patience, and compassion, you cultivate a mind more of peace and resilience and being in the here and now. There's also a difference between mindfulness and meditation, and people often get the two confused. So meditation is a structured practice, or otherwise known as a formal practice, where you take a designated time out of your day to either sit on a cushion or a chair, to maybe close your eyes and focus on your breath. This is an intentional act, but also a way to train your mind. Some meditations strengthen our ability to observe our thoughts and our emotions without attachment, without judgment, that cultivates a deeper sense of internal awareness. Mindfulness, on the other hand, is a way of being. It is how we show up in our daily moments. It is how we notice what is happening within and around us without immediately reacting to it. So this isn't about being in a quiet space, sitting cross-legged with your hands in the mudra position to practice meditation, because you can be mindful while drinking your morning tea or your morning coffee, while walking to your car, while walking in nature, when you're having a conversation, when you're listening to this podcast. It is about being present here and now. It is about awareness in action and how we can engage with the world moment to moment. Another way to think of the difference between meditation and mindfulness is meditation is like going to the gym for a specific reason, maybe to train your muscles, where mindfulness is like using those muscles in everyday activities. So you don't need to be in a specific environment to be mindful. It is something that you carry with you every moment of the day. So I hope that clears up a little bit about what mindfulness is and the difference between mindfulness and meditation, and also some of the benefits that mindfulness has for our well-being. As a general rule of thumb, some myths and assumptions that I want to clear up about mindfulness is that this is not about being spiritual. I've heard this comment many times before. I'm really not into this mindfulness stuff. I'm not very spiritually minded. So mindfulness is not spiritual. It is a practice. It's not even about learning how to be mindful for the first time, because every single one of you who's listening has been mindful for years. We've just forgotten how to do it. You watch a baby and an infant at play. We are born with a deep understanding of how to be mindful in the moment, with curiosity, involving our senses, being here. Over time, when we start to understand that there are more people outside of us and we become more conscious about where our place is in the world, and then self-talk and self-belief comes in, mindfulness loses its grip on us and we forget how to do it. So this isn't about learning how to do it. This is about reminding ourselves what we forgot how to do. So the next time you're walking in nature or enjoying the pace of life or the atmosphere around you, or maybe it's enjoying that cup of tea or cup of coffee, maybe you're enjoying that relaxing spa, or maybe you just got home after a stressful day at work and the weather's bleak and you throw yourself on the couch to watch a movie, then you'll know what mindfulness feels like. And here's another good example of what mindfulness will feel like. For those of you who have children, you'll understand what this feels like. Just imagine you're in your car with your family, with your 4 kids, with your partner. Everybody's talking, kids are screaming in the back, the music's on the radio, lots of stimulation, lots of noise. And you start to get overwhelmed. And you're traveling home. You get home, you drive up your driveway. The kids jump out of the car, still yelling and screaming. Your partner jumps out of the car, you turn the car off. And then suddenly there is silence, stillness. And for some of you who are listening, that place of stillness is really loud, but so beautiful to bathe in for a little bit. This is one example of what mindfulness can feel like when we reduce our senses and reduce the chaos of our environment down. So for many of you, this mindfulness may feel kind of foreign and unusual, but I promise you, the more you practice, the better you get at it. And if you want to remind yourself to practice like I did when I first started, is to set an alarm for yourself, maybe even 3 times a day, to remind you to spend 5 minutes out of your day practicing this technique. There's a huge amount of data showing that even for 5 minutes a day of being in the moment, of being mindful, applied consistently, makes a difference to our well-being. So practice this often. Don't aim for any outcome. Just learn to be in the moment of what you are doing. Expect your mind to wander. And as we talk about mindfulness in future episodes, I'll provide you different ways of doing it that may, in particular, suit you as well. So that's all I've got for this episode. Thank you for joining me today. And I hope that you've got something useful from this discussion. And if you have any questions you would like us to discuss on future episodes, then please email me at rethinkingmentalwellbeing@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. So until then, go well, go in peace, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
This Free FM podcast was brought to you with support from New Zealand On Air.